The champagne had barely stopped fizzing in the plastic cups when Don, my manager, cornered me in the hallway. He still had frosting on his tie from the lopsided cake someone from HR bought at Costco. Everyone else was laughing, hugging, posting selfies with the banner that said "Historic Launch" in Comic Sans. I was still in the afterglow of watching my system survive its first real stress test. Clean dashboards, zero downtime, smooth as silk. Then Don ruined it. "No bonus for you this year. Policy reasons." He said like it was nothing. Like he was telling me the coffee machine was out of filters. Then he clapped me on the shoulder, grinning as if I should thank him for the slap. For a moment, the air went flat. My ears filled with static, like when you drive through a tunnel. I blinked at him, waiting for the punchline, the grin that meant he was kidding. But he'd already pulled out his phone, already scrolling through something more important than the woman who had just saved his career. I nodded once. No anger. No questions. Just a clean, flat got it. But inside, something clicked. Not rage. Not yet. Something colder. The kind of cold that comes when you realize someone thinks you're disposable. 30 minutes later, I was at my desk, the noise of celebration still buzzing faintly from the break room. I opened my encrypted folder, the one I never told anyone about. A digital drawer of insurance, old emails, Slack threads, design diagrams, and at the very bottom, the contract, the analytics license. I highlighted the clause I'd fought to insert 2 years ago. Appendix C, subsection 4, paragraph B. A single sentence, dense with legal muscle. In the event that the designated technical lead, as defined in Addendum A, Kate Morrison, is removed from compensated employment status for any period exceeding 72 hours, this license agreement shall be considered null and void, with all associated access rights terminated without notice. I could almost hear my own voice from that negotiation. Me on the phone with the vendor, begging, pushing, refusing to back down until they added it. Don had been absent, of course. He'd pawned off the contract review on me because, in his words, legalese makes my head hurt. I made sure my name was there, not out of arrogance, but survival. I knew people like him. The moment you stopped being useful, you stopped being human. And now here we were. I didn't run to HR. I didn't confront Don. That's not how you win. Instead, I opened a new email. Short, professional, no anger between the lines. Just 4 words in the subject line. FYI, potential issue. In the body, I wrote, looping you in on the analytics license, specifically Appendix C. There may be compliance implications tied to compensation structure. Attaching for your review, attach the PDF. Original signature. Time-stamped. No dramatics, no bold text, no threats. Let the document do the talking. By the time the email left my outbox, I felt the shift. Not outside yet. The office was still full of sugar highs and corporate backpatting, but inside me. The ground was tilting, the fuse already lit. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to scroll through JIRA tickets when I saw her. Rebecca, lead counsel. She was crossing the hallway with a folder under her arm, phone in her hand, scanning her inbox as she walked. She stopped mid-step, froze. Her eyes darted back to the screen. She scrolled again. Then she slowed, pressing her thumb against the folder like she needed to anchor herself to the floor. She set the folder down on a cubicle wall, adjusted her glasses, and stared at Don's office door. Her face had gone pale, tight. When she finally pushed his door open, I caught a fragment of her voice. Not loud, not panicked, just sharp, surgical. "Please tell me you paid her?" The laughter in the hallway didn't stop. HR was still buzzing about karaoke night. Sales was still high-fiving over fake numbers, but in that tiny office, I knew the ground had shifted. Don's voice fumbled something about policy and upper-level decisions. Rebecca didn't answer. She closed the door instead. The sound was small, but it echoed in my chest like a gunshot. I turned back to my monitor, pulse steady. No smile, no gloating. Just the faint satisfaction of knowing the grenade I'd buried 2 years ago was finally ticking in their hands. They thought withholding my bonus was just a cost-saving measure. A box ticked on a spreadsheet. They didn't realize they'd just turned off the oxygen valve on the system that fed their entire company. And I? I was the only one who remembered where the switch was. The office looked the same the next morning. Cheap carpet, humming fluorescent lights, the smell of burned coffee drifting from the kitchen. But something had shifted. Silence had settled over the floor. Not the kind that comes from focus, but the kind that spreads in waves. Conversations dropped the moment I walked past. Slack notifications slowed to nothing. Calendar invites vanished without explanation. First, the daily stand-up disappeared. One moment it was on my calendar. The next it was gone. Then, my access to the DevOps channel blinked out, replaced with a red banner. You no longer have access to this workspace. I didn't ask questions, didn't protest. I opened my terminal, sipped my tea, and started exporting logs. By mid-morning, whispers began. Kevin, one of the engineers, leaned against my desk with a forced smile. Hey, random question. Did anyone actually confirm the vendor clauses with legal? Something in appendix? Whatever? I shrugged. Not sure. Why? He frowned, scratching his neck. Heard Rebecca's been digging. Looked serious, that didn't surprise me. I still remembered the way she froze yesterday, whispering, "Please tell me you paid her?" She'd recognized it immediately. The clause wasn't some minor footnote. It was a live wire, and she knew it. The rest of the team tried to keep the mood going. Sales was still high-fiving over inflated numbers. HR joked about karaoke night. But beneath it, nerves were showing. Don strutted down the halls, talking louder than usual, his fake laugh echoing off the walls. Every sentence was stuffed with confidence that didn't quite stick. I watched from the break room later, staring at the sad remains of the launch cake. The word winners was scrawled across it in red icing, the last S sagging into crumbs. Appropriate, I thought. That afternoon, Rebecca called a meeting. No subject line, no prep doc, just quiet shoulder taps pulling people into conference room C. I wasn't invited, but I could see through the glass. She sat at the head of the table, calm, deliberate. Don was across from her, face flushed, spinning a pen between his fingers like a nervous tick. HR chewed gum like a teenager. A junior analyst looked like he'd rather vanish through the floor. Even from a distance, I could see what was on Rebecca's laptop screen. The license. The clause. The exact one I had highlighted in my email. At one point, she leaned forward, speaking low, sharp. Her eyes locked on Don like she was pinning him to the wall. He tried to laugh, shrugged too quickly, gestured like it was all nothing. Rebecca didn't blink. When the meeting ended, Don stormed out first, jaw tight, barking into his headset. HR followed, chewing faster now. Rebecca lingered a moment, typing quickly before closing her laptop with quiet finality. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. By the end of the day, the isolation had escalated. My JIRA tickets were reassigned. Access to the monitoring dashboards revoked. Piece by piece, they were erasing me from the very system I had built. I opened a fresh spreadsheet and began cataloging every dependency. Daily sales dashboards powered by my pipeline. Customer churn reports tied to my scripts. Forecasting models for the CFO, built from my code. Transformations scheduled with cron jobs I'd written during a blizzard while Don stayed home working remotely. Line after line, I mapped the company's heartbeat. By the time I stopped, dozens of systems filled the page. Each one linked to me. Each one hinging on that license. Each one vulnerable. I encrypted the file, stored it on an offline drive. Not revenge, insurance. When I finally left, the building felt hollow. The laughter from yesterday had vanished, replaced by the uneasy quiet of people sensing something was wrong but too afraid to name it. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt steady, calm. They thought I was cornered, cut off, erased. but every step they took to push me aside only tightened the rope around their own necks. And when it snapped, they'd realize too late. I was the only one who knew how to keep the oxygen flowing. The first sign wasn't a siren. It was an absence. The report that always lands in the CFO's inbox didn't arrive. No bounce, no error, just silence where numbers should be. A junior analyst pinged a channel I no longer saw. Are the dashboards down, or am I doing something wrong? The kind of question that sounds innocent until 5 more people ask it in different rooms. Then the pings stacked. Product couldn't load churn. Sales couldn't refresh pipeline. Marketing screenshots showed empty tiles where KPIS used to be. DevOps swore there were no overnight deploys, no alarms. Everything looked fine, which is its own kind of problem. I sat at my desk and watched it build like pressure in a pipe. An email slid into my inbox from Rebecca, short and surgical, CCing a handful of people who sign things. Confirm current compensation alignment for designated technical lead per Appendix C to maintain license compliance. No exclamation points. No threat. Just a scalpel laid on a tray. Don replied with a paragraph of foam. He used words like policy, timing, and review window. All air, no wait. Rebecca followed with a copy of the signature page and one sentence. Non-compensated status triggers termination of license access. You could feel the temperature drop without seeing a single face. Across the floor, I heard chairs slide, doors close. The quiet kind of panic that keeps its shoes on. On my screen, I opened the vendor portal and did what anyone with a pulse and a plan does. Checked logs. The last authorized handshake matched my system's heartbeat. Then a string of denials. Token rejected, license context invalid. Not a glitch. A judgment. I poured myself coffee in the break room and watched the hallway. People walked faster, carrying laptops like life preservers. Someone from marketing stared at a frozen dashboard for a long time, like if she willed hard enough the numbers would return out of pity. A message arrived from an address no one ever notices until it matters. Vendor compliance at ... It said exactly what I expected it to say. Plain, unadorned, impossible to argue with. License status: non-compliant per Appendix C. Access suspended pending remediation by designated account lead. The designated account lead was me. I didn't reply. That wasn't my job anymore. Across the glass, conference room C filled again. No invite for me, as usual. I could read the room anyway. CFO, arms folded, face gray. VP of sales rubbing his temples. HR flipping to the wrong page, then back again. Rebecca at the head, calm as a winter lake, the contract open like scripture. Don tried to speak with the shoulders, all shrug and bravado. He was performing confidence for an audience that had stopped buying tickets. They put a printout on the table. My architecture diagram, branding swapped. My notes rephrased in the third person like the system had grown on a tree. I recognized my own mistakes from 2 years ago, now framed as triumphs by people who had once asked me what a warehouse was. The irony would have been funny if I were in the mood. The door opened. The CEO stepped in with the expression of someone who walked into a room expecting cake and found an audit. He didn't sit right away. He looked at Rebecca. Rebecca didn't blink. She pointed at a highlighted line, said something measured. He asked a question with his hands. She answered with her eyes. You learn a lot about an organization when lawyers stop choosing adjectives. Outside the room, the floor was losing air. People stopped making small talk. Phones rang and didn't get answered. A director jogged to IT like jogging could fix contract law. I went back to my desk and made myself useful to the only person who would thank me for it later. Future me. I exported dependency maps, rebuilt notes that lived in my head into a shape that would survive without me. Every cron, every feed, every alert path. I deleted my personal test keys from sandboxes I no longer trusted to stay private. Not sabotage, housekeeping. Someone from HR drifted near my desk with a smile he'd probably practiced. Quick favor, could you jot down some transition notes? just so the team can keep momentum. The word you use when you're sure the car still has gas because it's still rolling downhill. I looked up. Happy to, once legal confirms our license is valid. He blinked. The smile didn't know where to go, so it fell. He left with a nod that meant nothing. Another email from Rebecca landed, this one to a wider group. Crisp final. Retroactive adjustments do not resolve breach. Disclosure preparation has begun. A whole building inhaled and forgot how to exhale. Soon after, the banners appeared, an elegant red strip across executive dashboards. License unrecognized. Contact account holder. They could fire me if they wanted. They just couldn't run the company after they did. That's the part people like Dawn never learn until the lights go out. Value isn't loud. It's the hum you stop hearing until it's gone. The CEO left the conference room without speaking to anyone. Rebecca followed, face set. Dawn came out last, colorless. He avoided my eyes, which was a shame because I was ready to give him the gift he'd been dodging all week. The truth fixed in the calm of my stare. I packed my bag like it was any other day. Laptop, charger, the offline drive with my notes. My plants could wait. Plants know how to survive droughts. At the elevator, I caught a reflection I recognized from 2 years ago, the night I'd convinced a skeptical vendor rep to type my name into a clause that wasn't standard. Not vanity, insurance. There are rooms where the only way to be seen later is to write yourself into the rules today. The doors slid open. I stepped in, breathed, and let the day close. Halfway to the lobby, my phone lit up. Unknown number. No caller ID mask. No assistant buffer. The kind of call that skips every rung on the ladder because the ground underneath it just moved. I let it ring once more, long enough to hear the building's hum in my ear. Then I answered. The voice on the other end was rough, stripped of the polish you hear in all hands meetings. Kate. The CEO said. Just my name, like it was suddenly fragile. We need to talk. I leaned against the counter in my apartment, one hand resting on the cat curled on the windowsill. About what? I asked, calm, like I didn't already know. The system, he said. No spin, no smile. Just the word that now defined his nightmare. It's down. The vendor says it's a licensing issue. Rebecca tells me you're critical. Critical. The word sat in the air between us. What will it take to resolve this? He asked. No greeting, no apology. Just desperation wrapped in a necktie. I didn't answer right away. I let the silence stretch, piano wire thin. In the distance, traffic hummed through the city. Inside, I sipped water, steady as stone. I already flagged the issue, I said finally. 30 minutes after Dawn told me I wasn't getting my bonus. He exhaled like a man caught holding a live grenade. Look, that was a mistake. A misunderstanding. We'll fix it. Just tell me what you need. I almost laughed, but didn't. Not yet. Instead, I walked to my desk and opened the folder I'd named They're Going to Beg. Inside sat a PDF my attorney and I had prepared weeks ago. We'd drafted it as insurance, knowing the launch would test more than just servers. The title was simple: Reinstatement and Buyout Proposal. I'll send you something, I said. Read it carefully. You'll have 24 hours silence. Then the sound of a pen tapping against wood. Kate, we don't have 24 hours. Investors are already asking questions. The board wants answers by morning. Then you'd better move quickly, I said, and hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. What I felt was the weight of control sliding back into my hands, quiet and solid. The next morning, the building had the energy of a funeral home. Slack channels were graveyards of unanswered questions. Phones rang without pickup. Teams huddled in corners, whispering words like breach and exposure. Marketing sent an all-staff email blaming IT. IT blamed the vendor. The vendor responded with a single brutal line. Your license is invalid due to breach. Contact your designated account lead for reinstatement. The designated account lead was me. Rebecca didn't waste time with blame. She sent a message to the executive team. Retroactive compensation does not resolve breach. Vendor has confirmed. Disclosure to board and investors mandatory. No fluff, no soft edges. Just a scalpel cutting through denial. I sat at my desk, calm, while HR made their move. A junior staffer, Tyler, barely out of school, approached holding a paper form like it might explode. He was sweating through his shirt. Don was wondering if maybe you could draft some transition notes? Transition notes? I repeated. Yeah, just so the team can keep things moving. His voice cracked mid-sentence. I set my tea down, met his eyes, and said evenly, Tyler, I can't document a system you no longer have legal access to. His mouth opened, then closed. He nodded too quickly, mumbled something about checking back later, and scurried off. They thought they could fix this with paperwork. A backdated bonus, a quiet form slipped into payroll, like compliance could be tricked with timestamps. But Rebecca caught it before the ink dried. She sent another email, this one company-wide. Payment logs confirm violation. Retroactive adjustments do not restore compliance. Platform remains unlicensed. That line, remains unlicensed, spread through the building like smoke. By afternoon, I walked past conference room B and saw them inside. Dawn pacing, voice raised. The CFO pale, head in hands. Someone from sales with tears in her eyes, clutching a granola bar she wasn't eating. Rebecca at the end of the table, calm as ever, binder open, pen clicking softly like a metronome counting down the seconds. I didn't slow down. Didn't look in. I just kept walking, my bag heavy with the offline drive that held every dependency map, every log, every piece of evidence. Insurance. Always insurance. When I got home that night, the offer came through. An email from the CEO. Subject line. Proposed resolution. Attached was their counter. A promise of the withheld bonus, a note of appreciation, vague assurances about future recognition. I read it once, twice, then closed the file. Too little, too late. I opened my prepared proposal, attached it to a new message, and forwarded it back. 3 bullet points, simple and clear. Immediate wire transfer of unpaid compensation plus 40% breach penalty. Buyout of license clause for a mid-6-figure sum executed through outside counsel. Written statement acknowledging contribution to be read at the next all hands. I added one sentence beneath it. Offer window, 24 hours. Then I hit send. I sat back, poured myself a glass of wine, and let the silence settle around me. Outside, the city buzzed with life. Inside, my plants leaned toward the window, untouched by the chaos consuming the people who thought I didn't matter. They had made their move. Now it was my turn. The offer window sat in their inbox like a countdown. I didn't pace. I watered my plants, answered a message from a friend about weekend plans, and fed the cat. The dashboard stayed dark. The building lived on forwarded emails and wishful thinking. The reply came sooner than I expected. First, a counter, the kind that tests whether you're bluffing. Half the breach penalty. No buyout. A future spotlight at some vague town hall. I wrote one sentence back. Per attached, terms are non-negotiable. Then I closed my laptop and made dinner. A second message arrived, this time from Rebecca, not the CEO. No flattery, no apology. Please confirm wiring instructions. Attached was a short amendment drafted by outside counsel to execute the clause buyout upon receipt of funds. I sent the wire details and the PDF my attorney had pre-cleared. If they moved quickly, the system could breathe again without pretending I didn't exist. Payment confirmation landed first. A screenshot from Treasury, numbers that actually mattered. A few minutes later, the ACH notice from my bank. Not a promise. Money. I felt it more as a weight lifting than a victory. The breach penalty followed. Same day. No dithering. They had finally found the brake pedal. Rebecca called. Funds sent, amendment circulating. Vendor is ready to reinstate upon confirmation that you're in compensated status, she said. Voice even. Translation. We paid you. Please let the lungs fill. I'll notify compliance, I said. I opened the vendor portal, attached the executed proof of compensation with the timestamp, and replied to the compliance address that had shut the door. Status restored. Amendment pending. Please reinstate access per Section 7DA, short pause, then the response. License recognized. Services resuming. No confetti, no fanfare, just the hum returning to a building that had forgotten what it sounded like. Only then did the CEO call again. He skipped posture. We should have paid you the bonus, he said, quiet, like someone admitting the obvious too late. I flagged it before the launch, I said. You had time. He didn't argue. We'll honor your proposal in full. The statement at the all hands. Would you prefer to read it or have me read it? The question hung there like a bridge I no longer needed. You can read it, I said. It's your house. The all hands happened the next morning. No music, no jokes. People looked tired, like the blackout had sucked color out of their faces. I watched from the back, arms crossed, the room a blur of hoodies and blazers. The CEO read the statement as drafted, word for word. He acknowledged the design, the implementation, the nights and weekends, the contract I negotiated, and the breach they caused by withholding compensation. No hedging, no team effort air quotes. My name was said out loud, attached to the work it belonged to. The room clapped in a way that wasn't a party. It sounded more like relief. Don didn't look at me. He stared at the floor, jaw locked. Later, I saw a calendar hold block out his afternoon with HR. That part wasn't my business. After the meeting, engineers stopped by my desk one by one. Not performative. Quiet thanks, a nod, a hand to a heart. Kevin said, I learned more from watching how you handled this than any code review. I believed him. Rebecca visited last. She leaned on the cubicle wall, the same way she had leaned on the claws. I don't say this often, she said, but you saved them from themselves. I saved my work, I said. They just happened to use it. She nodded, almost a smile. The buyout amendment is fully executed. Going forward, the license isn't tied to you. If you choose to leave, you won't be holding a grenade on the way out. That's the point, I said. No hostages. I had already decided. Staying would mean pretending the previous week hadn't happened. Respect isn't a plaque. It's trust you don't have to beg for. I drafted my resignation with a short transition plan. 2 weeks, documented handoffs, a list of risks that didn't need to become disasters if someone actually read them. No drama. I didn't want to burn the place down. I wanted to close the door and know it would stay closed. When I sent the note, the CEO replied within minutes. Appreciation, an offer of a consulting retainer if I ever wanted it, more words than I needed. I accepted the thanks, declined the retainer, and attached the final dependency map with notes in plain English. Insurance for them, closure for me. On my last day, the dashboards were alive, the hum steady. A new engineer shadowed me through the final handoff. We clicked through systems, I answered questions, and when we were done, I unplugged my keyboard and put it in my bag. I left the plants on the window ledge. The team had started watering them on their own. Good sign. Outside, the air felt clean. I walked to the corner cafe and ordered a coffee I didn't need. My phone buzzed. An email from the vendor confirming the clause buyout had been recorded and the account now sat in ordinary status. No special protections, no tripwires. Just a normal contract for a system that would keep breathing without me. I sat by the window and let the quiet settle. Not triumph, not vengeance, just equilibrium. If there's a message in all this, it's simple. Build well, document better, and write yourself into the places where memory gets fuzzy. Contracts, change logs, signatures. Don't threaten. Don't bluff. Say what you'll do and do it. Protect your work without breaking what other people rely on. The system doesn't have to go dark for you to be seen, but sometimes darkness is the only language a careless room understands. They learned to read it. I learned to leave. And the hum, at last, belonged to both of us for exactly what it was.